Hello. So I wanted to give you some more content because I know that we will be speaking about this, but I believe that this might be a little bit too early for you at this moment. So we will probably have to speak first about the future tense and past tense for the completed and perfect verbs or completed verbs. And then I believe it's going to be way easier. So I'm creating this content also so that you have it on YouTube and you will be able to come back into this and use it to your advantage. So let me just quickly read what I gathered. Nearly all Slavic languages, or let's say, okay, in all Slavic languages, but not universally, there are phrases that they are perfective and imperfective. So perfect and imperfect. In contrast with English verb grammar, which consists of several aspectual oppositions: perfect, neutral, progressive, non-progressive, and habitual, and all that, like used to. We have this thing that is either something is in progress or something has been done or it will have been done in the future. So we have this in the opposition to the grammatical tenses. That's why it's so confusing, and mostly it's intuitive. So the aspectual distinctions exist on the lexical level, and we don't have any universal method of forming a perfective verb form or a given imperfective verb form. For conversely speaking, perfective verbs are mostly often formed by means of prefixes. That's true. Or we are just changing the root. Sometimes we do that. Or there is also something called suppletion, which means that we are using completely different root. And then it gets a little bit more complicated, but don't worry, we'll get to that place anyway. Possessing a prefix does not necessarily mean that the verb is perfective. So that's something that I will want you to remember. That's why it's so hard to learn them. But we will stick to some of them that they are easier to get, and I'm sure that you will be able to tackle them with how easy you get the other things too. Now, the general characteristic of this. Almost all of the verbs are either perfective or imperfective. There are some that they are not, but we will get to that place too. Most verbs from canonical pairs of one of the perfective and imperfective verb will generally have the same meaning, but none of them. However, we have a number of bi-aspectual verbs that they may be used both as imperfective and perfective form. They are mainly borrowings from non-Slavic languages, and you will notice that, but some native verbs are also in this group. As opposed to them, monoaspectual verbs are mainly native. Just saying. There are monoaspectual imperfective verbs without perfective equivalents. For example, just like we said before, there's going to be to have, to be. Sometimes it's also the usual construction, not only in Polish, but also in English. And then we have the perfective verbs without the imperfective equivalents. For example, become, because just like in English, you are in the process of becoming or you become. And there's a big difference between come and become. So that means that from the point of pure sense and logic, there will be verbs that they make no sense if you use them just in the imperfective form. For example, become paralyzed, right? Aspect in Slavic is a superior category in relation to tense or mood. So just like in English, the tense or mood is superior. Here we have the aspect of imperfection or perfection. Particularly, some verbal forms like infinitive cannot distinguish tense. That's basically this difficulty, that we don't distinct. So you need to have some forms like prepositions or like other parts of the sentence of speech. The example is an imperfective and perfective Polish verb, the meaning to write, pisać. That's a very good example. All personal forms are given in the third person, masculine singular. That will be just the reference. So pisać, napisać. And pisać is the imperfective and napisać is the perfective. Passive participle, it's pisane, napisane. Gerund is pisanie, napisanie. Past impersonal, it's pisano, napisano. So you don't even know who did that. That would be the passive form. Past impersonal from subjunctive, it's pisano, napisano, przez. Napisano by. Past tense is pisał, napisał. It's either he was writing or he wrote. Future tense is going to be confusing because it's będzie pisać or będę pisał or napiszę. So I will be writing or I will write. Conditional form, pisałby. Yes, we have also that mode of conditional mode. Conditional or the second form, byłby pisał. That's something that is going to probably blow your head because it is as if he was going to write. So that's why it's second conditional. Imperative, niech napisze, niech pisze. So you let someone do it. Participle, you have pisząc. This is something also very, very high level, I would say. And then you have the interior adverbial participle, which is napisawszy. So when you have done something, you concentrate on the other thing. Napisawszy, you can do something different. That's why it's so bad. Now, the perspective in the perfective aspect allows us to speaker to describe an action as finished and completed. I think for me this is easy to understand, but you need to tell me. And an example of the verb to eat is like that. Jeść and zjeść. And then you have the imperfective verbs that they convey actions and states in progress, just ongoing states, just like in any progressive tenses. Then you have the actions that serve as a background. Then you have the simultaneous actions, durative actions, aimless motions. For example, chodzić, chodzę, I'm walking. Multiple irritative actions, actions heading towards no or unspecified purpose or aim. And continuous states, I will be standing here. Now, perfective verbs can refer to the past or the future, but not to the present. So they just have like must, has only present form, those they have only future or past form. So they are used for states and actions that they are seen as having been finished. They have the single time actions. They have the actions that goals are seen as having been achieved. Circumstantial actions leading up to a state that, for example, she fell in love. Pokochała, zakochała się. The beginning of the actions or a state. I will get up, wstanę. The end of the action. Join me, dołącz. The actions that they are executed in many places or by many people simultaneously. Actions or states that they are seen as constituting the specific block of time. I will stand here. I will have been standing here. This is very much complicated. That's why I'm not trying to plunge into this too much. But most simple Polish verbs are imperfective, as in other Slavic languages. But there are also few simple perfective verbs. For example, dać, to give. Dałem. Sit down or sat down. I sat down, usiadłem. Also, many perfective verbs with suffixes and without prefixes exist. Sometimes it's like to shout, krzyknąć, or kupić, to buy. And then we have the different suffix. In most Slavic languages, including Polish, a present perfective verb may also stand by itself as a future tense. This is something that it doesn't exist in English. More often than not, grammars of these languages state that perfective verbs have no present tense or simply future tense, as imperfective verbs have their present tense or compound only. So we will have something like I will buy, kupię, or będę kupować, but then it's just I will buy it as a promise and it's sure, and then I will be buying, it's just saying that you will be in the process, but no specified reason. I hope that this helps. I'm going to try to upload this, and tomorrow we're going to discuss it further. Thank you.